the past few months, South Africa has witnessed a wave of violence in schools. Now, behavioural experts suggest the underlying factors may be rooted in the family environments as well as community influence. But could there be more? So to discuss the topic, we're joined in studio now by educational psychologist Ramudungwane Tabanu, who's joining us via Skype. And in studio, we have a Cineville Crisis Centre CEO, Colleen Strauss. Thank you so much for joining us this evening on Newsnight. But Colleen, before I cross over to Ramudungwane, let's talk about the cause of violence. We've seen it in schools. We've witnessed a death, unfortunately, countless times at the moment. So the big question is, what is happening with our children? Where are we going wrong? Are we going wrong, or is this simply an incident or incidents that are being reported and have had social media give them the light of day, whereas before we had the odd non-smartphone which did not allow the world to see what was happening?
I think it's a couple of factors that we are seeing happening here. We can see that what's happening in our communities and families has got a direct influence on what we are seeing being expressed in or experienced in our school environments. If we look at the communities, violence, unemployment, drug abuse, all of that has an influence on our children, and now our children are displaying these behaviors in schools, and now we're asking what's happening when in fact...
So you're saying that a lot of time it's the community, it's the environment in which they're brought up that speaks to the way in which they express themselves in the schooling, well, because they're in their own communities, really, in the school. And for you, just to bring you in, Ramudungwane, I mean, Colleen here is speaking about how the environment shapes significantly the child. It almost goes back to that nature-nurture debate, really. In your opinion, what is informing this wave of violence in schools, especially by kids as young as 13? I mean, I even saw an incident one where an 8-year-old actually committed murder.
Yeah, no, Colleen is spot on, and I will agree with her in terms of the myriad of causes and possibilities. Remember that schools are a reflection, and they do mirror actually our own families. So instead of dealing with the symptoms, we really need to go to the causes, as in what is it that these learners, our children, are exposed to, firstly in our own homes, firstly in how we deal with our own issues in terms of disagreements in the society and in the communities, because we must remember, most important is that the education and the teaching that sticks the longest is the one that is it's taught indirectly. Yeah. So you do not have to teach a child to be violent, but they see that violence brings certain results, and therefore they will want to also get the same results in that particular manner. Is it a matter of absent fathers? Is it a matter of absent mothers? Is it a matter of absent parents and child-rearing households where the older sister or the older brother is the one who should instill discipline, and simply because of he has no or she has no authority and support. So these kids tend to realize that, look, I can get away with whatever I want if I do it in this particular way. Either people ignore me or either people give in. And if I don't get what I want, this is how much I can push. And in most cases, it's a matter of trying and see how much and how far I can push.
Yeah, but then, you see, that then brings in the question around just the general safety in schools and the general safety. If a child is from a child-headed household, which is a growing phenomena in our country, it's unfortunate, but let's talk about the realities here. If a child is from a single-parent household, most of the time, I'm looking at it from the South African context, as a result of economic pressure, the mother will have to hold down 2 to 3 jobs. No, they don't even have time to come to school games, yet alone be at home before 8 p.m. So it leaves much room for the child to raise themselves up. Is that where we're falling short as a society? And if that is where we're falling short, what is the anecdote? Because the anecdote, clearly then, if it's an economic pressure, is that let's make everybody millionaires so that everybody can spend more time with their kids, help with the kids' homework, and then maybe there'll be less violence. Colleen?
Yes, that in an ideal world, that will be the best solution, yes. But now we need schools to step up with communities. We cannot expect only teachers to do that. The community has to come on board and say, you know what, we know this is a single mother. How can we help these families? How can we get influence into schools to support these families? So the support teams in schools need to be more developed. We need to get more psychologists in and to identify problems of children before they act out, so that we can identify them and say, you need to get to a psychologist and address the following problems, or get to a social worker to sort out grants or whatever is needed to assist the family. So we need to identify it sooner before it gets out into an acting out stage.
But also on the other side of it, Ramadugana, have we taken away responsibility from parents? And I'm just saying that because a lot of schools and a lot of even analysts have said that parents have allowed their children to be raised by teachers. And the discipline does not get instilled at home, or even just the general basics of please and thank you does not get instilled at home. And as a result of that, there's an expectation where teachers are supposed to enforce discipline, but also shape the other human being.
Lest we forget that we are just coming from a position in no time where it was debated in court whether to make it illegal for a parent to spank his or her own child. So we are living in a situation where we are trying too many things in South Africa. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's a good thing because it means that we are evolving and we are growing. Colleen speaks to the matter of the community helping those single parents. That's another issue where our societies, especially the black societies, we are moving away from that village raising the child to the nuclear families where what matters is me, my wife, and the children.
But who taught us this society, Ramadugana? I really have to ask. I mean, did the media teach us this? Is it because we're watching too many westernized programs and therefore we are adopting and assimilating to a culture which we don't know? Because and I'm at risk of sounding like I'm ancient. When I was raised, I was accountable not only to my mother and my father,
Exactly.
I was accountable to aunts, uncles, and the entire neighborhood, and I get smacked by all of them.
Exactly. And now you dare raise a child to a neighbor's child. You are in trouble. So how do you, as a male figure next door, to come and steal a sense of authority in this single house, this single mother household? So the situation is that it's how much I can, as we are saying, now the children, they realize that I can push. So it's a matter of how far can I push. But then again, let's not take away the responsibility of the teachers as well, where bullying happens in the schools. And at times, this child might have had enough because he was bullied, and unfortunately, at the time that he is reacting or she is reacting, it is to the extreme of the violence. So that happens as well. So we need to look into this whole picture, put it on the table, and say what could be the cause, rather than what is the symptom.
Okay, so then another part of it, and this could literally be the symptom in this, is the role of the media. And I do not want, again, because we are a society that is constantly evolving. A few years ago, there was no social media. And now we've got social media, which has given us access to how to even fire a gun. Is available on YouTube. I'm sure if you can search it. And on the other side of it, we've got the media that is propagating, some certain media that propagates violence. The type of music that kids listen to nowadays make it cool for you to be a gangster, right? Because it's associated with a certain element of power. So then in that case, is it because we've given even children too much access to information, that access to the world, the bigger internet, this World Wide Web, has caused them to respond and express themselves in the way that is make-believe on the internet, because they wouldn't know the difference anyways?
Exactly. They are exposed to everything. It's a click of a button and they're into a different world. They can see all the different things and they can experience it. And the bad thing about the social media in schools is that if they record it, they are becoming the heroes in the situation. Yeah. The villain is becoming the hero. And then you will see the incidents happening and there's always a cell phone, someone taking a video of that. And that is where the justice system needs to step up and say, you know what, if you are seeing this happening, you also accomplice to this, and then you need to be charged as well. So the children see the bright side of the media or the dark side, and they follow that. And when they apply it, they don't feel the extent of the law that if you do this, you're actually also accountable. And by taking videos of what is happening and doing all of that.
I have to ask then, are the kids taking videos of these atrocities? I'm going to call them atrocities because it really is an atrocity. Are they taking videos of these atrocities to become famous? Are we in a generation where fame is the most sought after thing simply because of the exposure to social media, that they're hoping to trend immediately, that they're hoping to be Instagram famous immediately, that they don't even pay attention to the repercussions, but rather the need for that fame at the moment?
No, that is very true, and it's all about I'm the first to have uploaded it. I'm the first to, and then because of we did not teach them or we do not teach them the sense of being accountable, the sense of responsibility, they do not understand and comprehend the repercussions that can come with that. Bystander during bullying is actually a criminal offense, as Colleen is saying. And this is where now we need, as a community, to say, you know what, there is a right thing and there is a wrong thing. Here is a person who is busy producing an act of violence against the other who could have helped. What should we do as the law? Not necessarily only to say, thank you, you've given this video to us, you were videotaping it, but couldn't you have done something to have mitigated and stopped this to happen? But unfortunately, we don't teach that sense of responsibility. Then again, like I said earlier on, it's a matter of rights versus the responsibilities. And if I do not take that charge as a parent, I'm expecting somebody to take it. You said it. We leave it to the teachers. We leave it to you as the media to babysit and to teach our children what we can deem as morals. And we tend to fail as parents because we don't follow up. We do not know what our kids are watching. We do not know their password to their cell phones, and we don't know what's happening.
So it almost appears as though this is a conversation about us going back to basics. It's so funny. The more we evolve, the more they stay the same. And it's about time we go back to the basics of it. And Colleen, I must ask around protecting the other children, because other kids as well are being affected by this. Children nowadays are feeling scared to go to school simply because there's firearms. There are, I mean, the child that got stabbed, people are carrying knives. Kids are carrying knives to school. So what does that say about the safety of the other kids that are in the very same environment for 8 hours in a day, even more?
That is why we need to ensure that communication within the school system is up to scratch, because they need to be able, I can go to a teacher and there's someone that I can go speak to and say, you know what, this is what's happening. Anonymous reporting line in school. I see this child has brought a weapon to school. Almost like reporting the other child to a teacher. And if we've got those systems in school where they feel safe, they can go talk to someone, then we can act on the child that is the acting bully or bringing the weapons to school. So communication within school and the support team needs to be established again, a safety team.
Okay.
Where learners are taught to react and how to respond to certain incidences when happening.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask you the question, because I like being very practical when it comes to these kinds of conversations, and I think that the time has passed for us to have an intellectual conversation around safety and around, especially when it comes to kids' lives who are concerned. So, not as guests, right? Not as analysts, not as psychologists, but really as people that have to look after kids and people that are parents probably in their own right. How then do we start resolving this issue? Do we go back to basics? Do we say that actually the discipline of the child is the right of the parent? Do we start saying, okay, in the school, you've got the right to give my kids a demerit and a detention and make sure that they get to feel the full might of them behaving in a disorderly manner? What do we do now?
Out of a social worker point, we get parents involved. We train them again how to be parents and how to do discipline without pulling out the rod, because that's the problem. They don't know how to discipline the children without giving them a hiding or a spanking. So they always say, but now we cannot do anything to children. That's not true. The power of discipline is still in your hands. You're still the parent. It is just there was a grey line. We look at the Poppy case. That girl was abused physically, and there was no, how do you draw the line? When is it enough? For that father, that was enough to discipline. How do we draw the line? And that is why we needed that law to come into effect. So we need to teach parents how to discipline again. They need to be open to discussions to say, do this differently.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how do we start even talking to a kid? And you know what? I'm not talking about the kids that are in Sandton here. I'm talking about the kids that are in rural KZN or rural Mpumalanga, kids that are in townships, kids that are in Katlehong, parents that are in Katlehong who need, you're talking about teaching and training parents how to discipline kids. Where are we going to start with this?
Look, parents must be parents, teachers must be teachers, and both adults must know that they have their best interest of this particular child at heart. It's very important that when there is an issue of bullying, when there is an issue of violence at school, whatever sort, even if it's your child, before you go and attack a parent who has tried to discipline your child, try to get where this parent is coming from. Do it like the old ways. That's how it has done. It has been done. You just do not go and attack another adult and say, you have done this to my child. Actually, the child should be afraid to say this person has done it because of the parent, and that adult will actually come and say, Your child has done this, and this is what I have done to instill a sense of discipline for that particular incident or act.
Well, thank you.
Secondly, please, as parents, know your children. Your child is bubbly. All of a sudden, it's not bubbly anymore. Ask. Get to be and to have their passwords. Actually, tell them there are no passwords on their cell phones, so that you can check their WhatsApp status. You know how much you can learn from a person's WhatsApp status, what they are saying there. Then, if they are saying something that looks a bit offish, ask what is happening. Where is this coming from? You need to engage and be with your children. You've mentioned something very important when we're talking about single parent, of how a parent can be working two jobs and. However, at the end of the day, it's your responsibility. It is your child. You need to communicate.
Well, thank you very much to the both of you for joining us this evening, sharing some really insightful conversation around how do we best start looking and being able to tackle the growing surge of violence in schools. I mean, the wave is seeming to be increasing, but from what my guests have shared, it looks as though it's time to go back to basics. As somebody would say, in this household, there are no passwords.